Isle Royale had been on our radar for a very long time. I had purchased a topo map years earlier for a trip that just never materialized. The stars finally aligned for us in 2018, and we were off for our island adventure. The 6-hour ferry ride went quicker than anticipated. We amused ourselves exploring the Ranger 3, obtaining our backcountry permits, listening to the Ranger presentations, and getting a bite to eat at the lunch counter. Our first stop was Mott Island to drop off supplies for all the national park workers who live there throughout the season. We got off the boat just long enough to stretch our legs and take our first steps on one of the least visited of all the U.S. national parks. The short trip from Mott Island to Rock Harbor gave us a preview of the adventures to come. First order of business when arriving was to find a place to set up for the night. With the help of some newfound friends, we were able to set up in one of the last remaining open areas. After dinner at the grill, we took a few beers back to the campsite to share with our new friends from Wisconsin. The beer made the next morning a little rough, but fortunately we had Michelle on coffee duty. We had some time to explore Rock Harbor before catching our afternoon water taxi. Our original plan was to water taxi to Chippewa Harbor and then hike back to Rock Harbor, but high waves out on the open water meant we could only get as far as the Mosley Basin. The peacefulness of Mosley Basin was a sharp contrast to the hustle and bustle of Rock Harbor. We were happy to get a shelter, although Michelle preferred the comfort of her hammock instead. After a very beautiful and peaceful morning, we said goodbye to Mosley Basin and headed for Daisy Farm. Of course, we had to play with the moose antlers. Patrick broke a strap on his hiking poles, but fortunately he's a pretty resourceful guy. We were greeted by another beautiful sunrise and decided to hike up Mount Ojibwa to the fire tower. We got to test our balance on a very long boardwalk. Fortunately, all made it across safely with no disasters. Back at camp, it was time for chores and relaxation. It was soon time to say goodbye to Daisy Farm and head off to 3 Mile. We could not believe the size of this tree and couldn't help but wonder how long it took the beavers to gnaw it down. As soon as we had camp set up at 3 Mile, I decided to do a solo hike to Lane Cove and back.
Everybody shake it, baby.
The Lane Cove Trail started with a series of steep switchbacks. The ever-busy beavers had flooded part of the trail. Fortunately, the boardwalks kept my feet dry most of the time.
Everybody shake it, baby.
Lane Cove is a small, tent-only campground on the North Shore. It was soon time to head back to make sure I made it to camp before dark. Since I still had plenty of daylight, I decided to make a short side trip to Mount Franklin. I was very glad that I made the trip. The view from the top was absolutely amazing. We spent our second day at 3 Mile just relaxing around camp. Rain had been predicted, but fortunately it held off. Our group split up for the hike back into Rock Harbor. I wanted to follow the shoreline on the Rock Harbor Trail while others opted for a more interior route. After setting camp at Rock Harbor, we decided to hike out to Schofield Point. Isle Royale has dozens of varieties of lichens, and people come from all over to study them. After our hike, we went to the Greenstone Grill for pizza and beer. Being the end of the season, they were trying to finish off the kegs, and we were more than happy to help them with that. We had a beautiful sunset walk back to our campsite. We decided to spend our last full day on the island, hanging out at Tobin Harbor watching the seaplanes come and go. Our Toe Bend Harbor Day ended with a gorgeous sunset and a beautiful crescent moon. Our clear skies wouldn't last, though, and we had our first thunderstorm on our last night. Our last day brought us our first and only moose sighting, which we were able to see as we were sailing away from Rock Harbor.